Welcome back to the Natilik Podcast. My name is Rob Thor, and in this episode, we're discussing the topic of mental well-being. The Office for National Statistics published a report last year that revealed the social impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, reporting that nearly 20% of adults suffered from depression, and that the average life satisfaction in the UK is at an all-time low. The response across the world has fortunately seen a heightened awareness of these challenges, combined with accelerated action. I sat down with three of Natilik's mental wellbeing community to discuss the challenges being experienced by people of all walks of life, such as the stigma surrounding speaking out about mental health. We also touch on some of the support that's out there to help manage and overcome stress, mental pressure and burnout. And then we take a look at what Natilik's mental wellbeing community is doing to support pertinent causes and the Natilik team on this episode of the Natilik Podcast. Hello to you, listener. So the summer is in full swing and we've got a brilliant panel of guests to talk to you today about another very important topic, that is mental well-being. I'm joined once again by Charlotte Page. Good to have you back, Charlotte.
Yeah, good to be back.
Welcome. And we've also got the lovely Nicola Brubank on board for her first pod. Hello, Nicola.
Hello, looking forward to this.
Yeah. And also delighted to welcome James Hinton for his podcast debut as well. Welcome aboard, James.
Hi, Robbie. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, good to have you aboard. Thanks, guys. So I've invited the three of you along today to talk about your community at Natilik, which is tackling a huge subject that has been even more pertinent, I would say, in the wake of the global pandemic and going through that. So we're going to get to know you a little bit before we dive into the topic itself and the great work that you've been doing. So, Charlotte, as the community leader, I'm going to come to you first for an introduction. So last time you joined us, we had a little bit of a look into what you do in your day job, shall we say. So could you tell us a little bit more about your role as leader of the Natilik mental wellbeing community, and why is mental wellbeing important to you?
Yeah, of course. So my day role is part of the people team. So I'm a people services manager. And obviously, as you said, I am the leader of the mental wellbeing community as well. So we kind of created the community just before Christmas last year. What we decided to do was open it out to the whole business and ask people if they wanted to join the kind of steering committee, if you will. And we had a great response. There were 8 of us. Originally, I think there's still 8 actually, because we had a couple of people change around. But and they can range for all through the business as well. So from kind of entry level roles up to MDs across all the different BUs, and it gives a really great feedback to be able to know kind of what's right for everyone in the business. Obviously, we run from what people want, essentially. So, and kind of getting the feel of what's happening. So why is mental health important to me? I mean, to be honest, there's a lot of different reasons. People in my family have suffered from mental health. My niece suffers from quite severe anxiety, things like that. I myself have suffered with kind of a mental health challenge, I guess I'd call it. So kind of about 18 months ago, I was just generally really unhappy, mainly due to the work that I was in at that time. Different reasons for it, but kind of probably a similar story, that I didn't really speak to anyone about it. My family and my partner, like, that we're not overly kind of emotionally friendly, I guess is what you would call it. So they knew I was unhappy. They didn't realise quite how unhappy I was. And because I never shared it. I never kind of showed it to them. And it had just kind of reached a bit of a peak. And by that point, we were then I was on furlough. I eventually kind of got made redundant. But to be honest, lockdown for me was brilliant. It just gave me that headspace to sort myself out, basically. So I kind of recognised in myself that I had there was a problem. And I just did a lot of different things. So with furlough, I was going out walking every day. I like taken up running again. I was probably the only person in lockdown to actually start going to the gym. Just like loads of different things. And it all contributed and helped me. And then in terms of work as well, I realised that I'm a people person. The people profession is HR. So I use my redundancy money to get to pay for my CIPD, which is my HR qualification. And then, I was a couple months later, I was at Natilik. I was super lucky. And for me, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like you say, mental health challenge, but for me, a challenge isn't necessarily a negative. It can actually be positive as well. Because when you do a challenge, like people think of kind of an ultra marathon or like a 24-hour bakeathon or something like that. It's hard going during it, but then afterwards you kind of build up that resilience, and there's usually some positives that come out of it. And I don't want to trivialize kind of mental health issues at all by saying that. It's more that I think obviously some things are ongoing as well for different people, but there can be positives to it as well. So I think that's just something to be aware of. And again, like for me, just the important thing is to recognize it in yourself, but to recognize how you can get yourself out of it as well. It's just really having that self-reflection.
Yeah, that's a really powerful story. And it's also nice to hear someone, you don't really hear that much people talking about lockdown and spinning it around as a positive and using it for self-improvement. So that's it's quite inspiring. I really like that. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's brilliant. Because it's not always easy for people to talk about mental well-being. I think we'll come on to that a little bit. But I was also encouraged, I think, when you did the introduction to the community, just the amount of people that turned up, the amount of people that showed an interest, and just the amount of people that were willing to speak out. So yeah, it was really good. And speaking of which, so Nicola, I know you're not only a prominent member of the general Natilik social community, but play a big part in defining some of the goals as well as the general purpose of the mental wellbeing community. So can you talk to us a little bit about you and why mental wellbeing is something that's important to you and your role that you've played in the community so far?
Sure, yeah. Hi, Rob. So I'm Nicola. I'm the leader of the client success team in the London Enterprise Business Unit at Natilik. I've been with the organisation just over 3 years. My people's happiness is extremely important to me, and that's one of my main motivations for being part of the mental wellbeing community. I kind of am part of the steer group of that, helping Charlotte and the rest of the team. I look after a team of 3 people over 3 different functions, which, as you can imagine, has many challenges which we overcome together. And considering mental wellbeing is a big part of that. So why is mental wellbeing important to me? So it's been classed as the next and current pandemic before the now more popular COVID pandemic, and is affecting more of us as we go through time, whether this is through acceptance, awareness, promotion or education. That's not important. It's there and we can't ignore it. There's consistently and increasingly more pressure on us as individuals, both in our professional and personal communities, to do more, be more, go further, perform faster, stronger, higher and more efficiency, as in some ways we're programmed to do by nature, right? But what is this doing to us as individuals? We've evolved technologically faster than our human brains, and although we're powerful, we sadly aren't robots yet, and we have the same mental capacity that we did thousands of years ago, and we just can't keep up with the outside pressures. As a business, we have to maintain a duty of care for our people whilst at the same time being grounded as a profitable organisation. We sadly can't be medically trained or equipped for this based on the organisation type that we are, but we can make every effort to ensure that we have as much as possible in place to facilitate the highest level of support for our people. It doesn't matter to me whether you choose to talk to your leader, peer, people team representative, stress counsellor, financial advisor, healthcare within work, or any of your options outside of work. And the takeaway message is that you do talk. Even if you feel as though your troubles are trivial, they never are, and they're always valid. You'll be amazed at the difference just by talking and sharing your struggles with somebody. Anybody can make if you haven't made that brave leap yet. As a leader myself, I always try and encourage my people to talk. And that doesn't have to be me. It can be anybody. Just don't be sad or stressed or suffer in silence. Yes, we're all here to do a job and do the best we can at that job. But we can't do that if we're troubled in whatever way that might be. I'm looking forward to seeing where Natilik can go with our mental wellbeing support for our people in the mental wellbeing community. To me, it's already an organisation that's further along this journey than anywhere else I've worked, and it makes me just so proud to be able to say that. Just look what we've done in the last year alone, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in more detail a bit later on.
Yeah, we will, and well said, very well said. There's a lot of I'd like to unpack a lot of that there. I mean, The only thing I'd probably draw exception to is the end goal being becoming robots. I'd like to avoid that if possible. I'd like to maintain a humanity while we still can. But
just from an efficiency point of view, maybe.
yeah, I'm with you. James, you've been waiting patiently there. I'm going to bring you into the conversation. What's your role at Natilik? And I'll ask the same question again, just for consistency. But why is mental well-being sort of important to you as part of your role?
Yeah, thanks, Robbie. So I work as the managing architect within the commercial business unit at Natilik. So I lead the design team. So there's a group of 6 people that work in my team, and I'm responsible for our go-to-market proposition. I came into leadership about 12 months ago, and one of the things that I quickly realised for myself in leadership was it was really important to be on top of my own mental health, to acknowledge whether I was talking about my own mental health, and taking that seriously. And it was a bit of a defining moment for me, and it's one of the reasons why I decided to get involved into the mental health community, which is really to gain a better understanding of mental health in general, but also to contribute towards growing positive mental health at Natilik.
Well said. And I think, James, I think there's been a lot of crossover with our roles at Natilik, certainly in the last year or so since I moved into my new role. So I've spoken to you quite a few times about how we've kind of both dealt with our own challenges with mental health over the pandemic, whether that be burnout, general feeling of isolation, especially in some of those kind of darker winter months. But something that I found in my experience that would be, I think, unfortunately, maybe not quite as common for us males to speak up about things. Has your experience as a leader at Natilik and a member of this community, how's that been for you? I'd probably reach that out to everyone else, but I'll come to you first, James, as the fellow male on the call.
Well, I think first off, I'd like to say I'm not a mental well-being professional. I just sort of caveat that, and I don't claim to have the perfect approach to ensuring positive mental well-being. So, but I just think sometimes it's really easy just to plow on with stuff in life and not really take time to breathe. It is good to acknowledge that everything isn't always going to be fine, and sometimes you will have periods in your life where you don't understand why you feel a certain way. And I think for me, I've come to realize that that's okay. That's just being part of human. Personally had challenges with my own mental well-being in the past. Sometimes I could see that coming and sometimes I couldn't. I've had experiences of anxiety, for instance, and certainly over the course of the last 18 months of the pandemic, I think I can look back at that and see times where I felt fantastic. I felt great. Everything was going well. But I think every now and again, as you mentioned, Robbie, there'd be low periods where you'd, struggle mentally. I think you mentioned it. I think acknowledging challenges with your mental health and talking about it is really helpful. And as soon as I realised that, it helped me because I realised there were people around me that had the same kinds of challenges, and it just to Nicola's point, just come back to kind of talking about it. And I think in leadership, it's really important to provide opportunities to get alongside people and give them your time and to listen and to build trust, treating people as individuals and really getting to know them. But also as a leader, sharing a bit about yourself, creating opportunities for people to share if they want to is really important. I mean, you can't make people tell you how they feel, but you can obviously foster kind of an environment which enables people to step forward if they want to share how they're feeling.
Yeah, I feel that's really important. I think I used to be in the same kind of business unit as you, James. I know when I struggled myself, I think especially having worked in a sales role, which can be extremely pressured from my experience, I guess, over the last 10 years in working in those roles. And I think it took me a long time to kind of decide that it would be a good idea to just speak to my leader and just explain, I'm feeling burnt out, I'm feeling kind of anxious, and just see where it goes from there, really. And I think as hard as I found that first step to take, I think it definitely felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders when I actually came to that person and said, is there anything that I can do here? Is there anything you can do to help? And, you know, it was, I mean, I had no problems in calling out who it was. I mean, it was Al Rudman at the time, who was my leader, and just setting out some simple steps to work towards improving the situation. I realized again how important it was just to speak to someone else, lay all these things out, and all of a sudden they felt trivial and very solvable problems. So, you know, it's not particularly a story that's that different to probably a lot of things that other people are going through. But I'd say for that reason exactly, it's why I would encourage people to just speak out. And like you said, Nicola, you said it quite well, whether it be a leader or you know, some of the services that are out there to support people, just speak to someone.
I think you're totally right. A huge and key turning point in, you know, mental wellbeing journey is accepting and having that first conversation. And it's so overwhelming sometimes. You've got to be so brave to do it that first time, and once you've done it, there's that huge sigh of relief. And I would hope that if that person is a leader at Natilik, it's not, you know, we would be very open and accepting to that conversation. And just going back to what Jane said as well, actually, is something that I asked myself a while ago, is how can I expect my people to come to me with their kind of, you know, deepest feelings and concerns if I'm not willing to share with them myself? And you know, when appropriate, of course, I have done, and as a team it makes us stronger because we can empathize with each other.
100%. I think that probably transitions us quite smoothly into what I wanted to discuss next, which was kind of some of the activity that you guys have been doing as part of the community. So I've obviously seen it. I think it's been quite impressive, just the amount of stuff that you guys have done, certainly in such a short period of time. So Charlotte, I'm just going to come back to you. What have been some of the things that you've worked on, put in place in your first year as a community?
So we've done a few different bits, actually kind of building on from what you were just saying about one of our things during Mental Health Week in May. We, again, kind of opened it up to the company and asked people to share their mental health stories. So it could have been absolutely anything that they felt was kind of personal to them. We did it anonymously as well. So people, like, obviously there wasn't any kind of form of stigma, which we didn't want to have anyway, but obviously they could put their name onto it if they wanted to. And it was actually really successful. We had so much great feedback thanking us for kind of getting people to share those stories. But it was just to demonstrate that there are a lot of people like that mental health does affect. And you obviously, like, it's not the same as physical health, is it? You can't see that. You can see that someone's got a broken leg, but you can't see what they're going through if they're suffering from anxiety or anything else like that. So, and again, as well, everyone's completely different in how they handle it. So, and the remedy for it as well. So it was really good just kind of emphasize those key points from that. But other things that we've done as well. So we did a step campaign. So getting back into nature, step into spring. So we gave a target of 25 million steps across the company. And if we did that, then we made a donation to Mind. We got just over 26 million, I think, as the whole company. So that was really great. And I suppose the kind of ideas, I mean, I kind of listen to podcasts and things like that on mental health, but there are things that also help me personally. So again, kind of similar, I suppose, to you guys, I've had like different challenges in the past. And I think for me, the most important thing was actually recognizing that is happening. As you say, everyone has bad days. Everyone's seen that meme, like, it's okay not to be okay. I think that's gone around numerous times during the pandemic. But it's just more, if you are having that bad day, what can draw you out of that? And for me personally, that's kind of exercise, that's going for a walk outside. And I suppose that's kind of where some of the inspirations come from. So at the moment, we've got a photography competition, kind of getting back into nature. Anything, it could be in your back garden, or it could be going out for a walk, anything like that. And then kind of we're saying that kind of the winning photograph will be hung in our new office. And obviously that'll be a really nice talking point when our clients come in. We can say, oh, where does that come from? We can talk about mental health and actually kind of spread about it that way as well.
Yeah, it's great. And I guess referring back to your the first part about, again, invisible ailments, so to speak, I mean, that's kind of something that's even further exacerbated by the fact that we're all remote, right? And people literally, sometimes it's quite easy to kind of just feel like you're just sat there on your own. So I like that you guys have thought of creative ways to kind of get people sharing and just encourage people to get involved in those community activities and things like that. Because again, that's just makes it kind of reinforces the sense of community maybe that we've somewhat lost by not being able to just get everyone in a room again and just, touch and feel each other, and which makes it sound very inappropriate.
I was going to say.
And actually be with each other.
Might have to edit that bit out, Rob.
The physical presence is what I mean, which is important. I think actually being with each other is really, really missed, certainly from me at least. Anyway, maybe a bit too needy there. But yeah, really getting stuff done either way, I think, which is great. So, well, I think we've touched on quite a few bits there. The one thing I guess just to talk about that maybe we haven't talked about would be what's next for the community. Now, I know we had the initiative with our recent sort of company awards where you guys nominated a charity as well. So I'm guessing there's some more work to be done there as well. It might be worth quickly talking about the charity too, and then just any other initiatives and what's next for the community.
So yeah, as part of the when we did Mental Health Week, and we had we asked people about kind of their mental health stories, part of that as well was to nominate a mental health charity that was close to them. So as a community, we wanted a charity that was close to our people, and Young Minds was one that came up. We had about 3 or 4 kind of nominations, and then as a community, we chose which one that we wanted to support, and Young Minds was the one that came through. I think that kind of just proves how important it is for mental health, especially with younger people. I mean, obviously it's important for everyone, don't get me wrong, but as Nicola said, there's so much pressure on everyone nowadays, and especially on young people to perform with and social media and things like that. So hopefully it will go towards, obviously, some great causes in helping young people with their mental health.
Yeah, it's good to see. And there's tons of support for Young Minds as well from what I've seen so far. So that's great.
From a future initiatives perspective, I know that we're looking into leadership training so that we're better equipped to support our people and can do so confidently. Charlotte mentioned earlier, and you touched on it, that this is an invisible illness. You can't see it like you can a broken leg. So one of the parts of that I think we'll focus on is how to spot the signs of someone who may be struggling, especially if we're all remote, because you can't see if somebody's sitting there with their head in their hands or a smile on their face for most of the time. I think as well it would be good if we had some more inspirational speakers along. A part of our Mental Wellbeing Week, we had a Paralympian come, and forgive me, I can't remember her name, but she was totally inspiring. So I think we'll do more of those.
Yeah, her name was Emma Wiggs, just for the she was
absolutely, that's it. Yeah, she was
amazing.
She was.
Yeah, great. No, it's really good to see. Really good to see. So, I think it's been brilliant speaking to you all today. I think I'm really looking forward to watching you continue to develop as a community and do great things. Hopefully, we'll have you on the pod again soon. You've all been absolutely great. But until then, Charlotte, Nicola, James, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, happy. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for listening to Nat Chat, the Natilik Podcast. Please subscribe to the Natilik Podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. And leave us a review while you're there. It really helps us improve and grow the show. Please note that opinions expressed on the Natilik Podcast are those of the hosts or our guests, not the organisations that they represent. You can find more information on Natilik on our website, that's natilik.com. You can also find us on social media. On Twitter, we're at Natilik Group, as well as Facebook and LinkedIn. Our theme music was provided by Dan Short, who you can find at Danzer, that's DANZR, on music streaming services. This is Rob Thor, and thanks again for listening.